Hi, my name is Robert, and today I'm with my buddy David, and we're going to change the front brake pads and rotors on a Volvo 2005 S60 all-wheel drive. We're going to point out a few things that we learned trying to do the first one. This time it's going to be really easy for you. First of all, we're going to start with a 19mm lug nut so we can get the tires off, and of course we have it on a big red jack, and we have it on the jack stand also. It's good to keep all your lug nuts and all your parts together. In this case, I'll be taking the tire, keeping it separate, and this particular Volvo has the ATE calipers. That's going to be very important because apparently the 2005s either have an ATE caliper or they don't. That's going to depend on the rotors that you get, as well as the brake pads. One other important note is you will need a 7mm hex bit because that is not in any toolbox that most people have. This is one that we picked up at Harbor Freight for about $4. Okay, now we're going to take the brake calipers, the pins that are holding the brake pads in. We're going to take those off, and you definitely want to take a look at how you're taking it off so you can assemble it the correct way when it comes back time. Okay, at this point, these particular caliper have rubber boots that are protecting the connections on the back where your 7mm hex is going to be. You definitely want to save those so you can put those back. That's driving away. Nice. Come on. Alright, now what we're going to do is use a C-clamp to compress the piston so that we can get to the brake pads and remove them correctly. What we're doing is tightening the C-clamp, which is pressing against the brake pad, which is compressing the piston. And anytime you're dealing with the brakes, you definitely want to make sure that you open up the brake reservoir so it doesn't have that pressure behind it. This way you can work with your brake fluid without actually having to change it or have any problems with the air in the line. Also, you want to note that anytime you're doing the brakes, you want to make sure that you only do one side at a time. The reason is, when you push those pistons, which is compressing that brake fluid, if you don't have that other rotor or the brake pads on, it's just going to push that right out of there, so it's going to cause a big mess. it's going to cause a lot of headaches. So one side at a time, guys. All right, now where we use the 7mm hexes, we're going to pull out the screws, and this is where the rubber caps were. And at this point we can take the calipers off. Alright, at this point you never want to let a caliper just hang down and put pressure on the brake lines. So what we're doing here is we're going to be using a bungee cord, and we're going to be wrapping it around the caliper and hanging it from the springs, and that way there's no tension on the brake lines. In this case we're going to have to double it up because we want to make sure the caliper is out of the way when we're working on it. And again, this is a 2005 Volvo S60, and again on the brake pad, the calipers actually, they're going to have a Volvo logo. On this particular side it's going to say that there's a LH for the left hand side, and in small print it'll say ATE on the caliper. Now that's the manufacturer of the caliper, and that will make a difference. So you're going to, before you get your brake pads and your rotors, take a look at that caliper and see if it says ATE, because that will make a difference. Alright, on this particular one, these brake calipers, this is going to be a 15mm, which is actually holding and again that's a 15mm on the back side. Once these screws are out, we'll be able to take off that piece, whatever that is. Now we'll be able to have access to the rotor. Okay, at this point we're going to use a 10mm to remove this screw, which is actually holding the rotor on. In this case it comes off pretty easily. In this case it was not rusted on like most of them, and being a 10mm, this is a standard piece and easy access. So once we remove that 10mm, this rotor will now be able to just slide off with a little help with a mallet.